Hello! I realized that I didn't film an intro, and I think the reason why is because I was just so busy trying to make sure that I had all my stuff together that it just slipped my mind. But hi from the Grand Canyon and welcome to my very first plant tour. So I have a small collection of plants. I have been collecting only for about 3 years. I have about 50 plants. I don't like to just have plants shoved in a corner under a windowsill or under a grow light. I like to display them as decoration, so that's why I've been trying to keep the number a little bit down so it doesn't look too cluttered. But my goal is to increase the size of my collection, but also make my plants more lush and more beautiful so that my home feels like a jungle, which I think it's everybody's goal. So let's get started on my plant tour. So these are my entryway plants. We have a gray star, trio star, a begonia, fiddly fig, and a marbled pothos. I had my marbled pothos in a kind of darkish corner and it reverted back to this light green. The new plants, the new leaves are starting to get their variegation back, but I think it's gonna be a while before it's actually the white variegation that it's supposed to look like. These are kind of more white. Let me see. Yeah, these are more white over here. These are new leaves. Let's see. This leaf here actually has white. And this one. I don't know if after they turn this greenish, if they go back to being white if given enough sun, but we'll see after the summer how much it changes, because it does get pretty direct light here, southern light, so I'm hoping that it actually reverts back to the white marbled look that I had before. So on this side we have my favorite plant right here. He's a very thirsty plant. So he has his bowl right there. We have my fiddly fig that I've had for a couple of years now. It's a really slow growing plant for me. It did give me maybe 3 new leaves in the winter because it was getting a little bit more direct light. And yeah, he just lives here and chills here. A lot of people say that fiddly figs are a really difficult plant to take care of, but I haven't really had problems with him. He just kind of hangs out in his pot. I water him about once a month, and he just does his own thing. My begonia here, I'm thinking about chopping this plant to make it bushier. Right now I only have just 1 stem. I had 2, but I ended up chopping the other one, and this little tiny leaf has been like this for a while now. So my plan is to let it grow a little bit more and then chop it so then I can have a really bushy plant. Back here is my trio star. That's one of the plants that took a while to get acclimated to my space. For a while it looked so ugly and I was ready to just throw it away. You can see this is an old leaf and it's just all crispy, and like it just took a while for it to get this pretty. I had someone on Instagram tell me that they have no idea how to grow theirs, that it's just crisping at the tips and dropping leaves. And honestly, the only advice I have for this plant is to just give it time. I don't have a humidifier, so none of these plants are growing with a humidifier, and I think it's just, I don't know, I don't think humidifiers are necessary. I think the regular room humidity is just fine, because these new leaves, they're not crisping This old leaf started to crisp when I first brought the plant home. So these are the first leaves of when I got it. And then after it just started growing and its new space, it's not crisping anymore. Neither is this one. So the old leaves are crispy. And then these are new leaves here. And they're just fine. So I don't know. Also, I don't give my plants distilled water. These are watered with regular California sink water and they're doing just fine, really. And this one here, my gray star, some of the leaves are lighter in color because last year I shoved this plant in a western facing window and the leaves got colorated because it was getting too much direct western light. And the new leaves are the darker green that is supposed to look like. The old leaves have been slowly dying. There's a dying one over here somewhere. And the new leaves are replacing the chlorotic leaves. Over here on this side, I have my bookshelf plants. I turned off one of the growing lights because I didn't want it to be flashing the camera and the lighting to be all weird. If we start from the top, I do have notes placed around the room because, like, if you saw my previous video, then you know that I am leaving for the Grand Canyon, so I just have reminders for my plant sitter to remember my plants and give them what they need. Here is my neon pothos. It is doing phenomenally under that grow light right there. Let's see if I can get closer. You can see all of the leaves up here are new leaves, and she is so pretty. Coming over here, we have this Hoya that I have in water. It actually rotted on me, so I'm trying to regrow roots. Once it has a little bit more roots, I am planning on growing it in leca and getting it its own small grow light over here so that it can be really long and pretty. Over here, I have my jade pothos, I believe. This one I've been growing from cuttings for a while now, and it's such a slow grower. It seems to do okay here in this dark corner, so I'm just letting it do its thing here. On this side, we have my Brazil. I am hoping to get it vining all the way across the room until it goes to my southern facing window. But I know it's a while to go, but she's doing great here, and it's such a pretty plant. I love the heart leaves. They're just so pretty. We have like a half one here. Such a pretty plant. On this corner, I have my Birkin, this fern that I don't remember the name of, and my Swiss cheese plant. My hope is that this plant will grow all the way to the top. I'm not really sure what I'm gonna do when it hits the Brazil, but I think I'll just chop it and make it bushier. And this is my dog. So next to my bed, I have a few low light plants. Right now, the grow light that I have hanging is off, so the lighting isn't weird, but I typically keep the grow light on because, as you can see, it's pretty dark corner most of the day. It gets some evening sun for a few minutes, maybe like half an hour or so, and then it goes back to dark. That's why I keep my ZZ here. It gets the light that we are seeing right now and the grow light. And then I have a snake plant growing in leca, and I have a pothos that I have been torturing for the last few weeks, and that's why it's looking a little bit ratty and sad up there. Because I'm gonna be gone, I'm thinking about chopping it up and restarting the plant just because it is looking a little bit sad. I am growing my snake plant here in leca, it seems to be doing the best in leca. I did have it in soil, but the roots were just not growing as fast as I wanted it to, and it was really unstable in just a tiny bit of soil, and the plant is too big for a small pot. Leca seems to be doing wonders for it. This washi tape here is acting as a like max water line for when I'm gone. My plant sitter can fill water to this line and it will be just fine. Here's a closer look of my pothos. As you can see, it is not happy with me. It actually came in a giant pot that I got for $10, but it was the whole plant was too big to fit here, so I decided to split it into two, and it didn't like the split. It became really stressed out and droopy. So what I did, I put it in like a container, a plastic container, to increase the humidity, and that brought the plant back up, but it made a bunch of mold grow in the soil, and I treated it with neem oil. Constantly was treating it with neem oil and it wasn't going away, so I had to repot it, and it started once again to get droopy. The way that this plant was actually grown is kind of awkward itself. So it looks like it had, like you can see it in this one, it has a thick stem, and then it looks like they clipped it here, and then a new growth point started, and that's another reason why it's looking really bare. See, it's happening here again. So here's another one that's like mostly stem and then leaves at the very bottom, and that I was okay with it when I bought it because it was only $10, but with everything going on with this plant, I'm just gonna chop it up and start it over. So I'll just chop here, and the roots are actually healthy. When I repotted this the other day, the roots were pretty healthy. I'm just gonna stick the roots into water with a little bit of the stem and hope that a new grow point will start growing from it, and I can have a thicker, more lush plant than the situation that we have here right now. And because I am not allowed to drill holes here, I did build this thing off of PCV pipe. I saw the idea on, I think it was Pinterest. Somebody made a cute one out of like metal piping, but I wanted to do it super cheap, so I got PCV pipe. I think so. And it actually does support the pothos, and then I have a grow light here. So I'm hoping that in the future I can make this a little bit more cuter, because as you can see, it does look a little bit awkward. But because I am leaving, I'm not worrying about it too much, and hope that when I come back, I'll have a cuter solution for this spot. And lastly, we have my western window plants. These plants get most of their sun in the late afternoon to the evening. As you can see right now, my peperomia hope is getting the most light earlier in the day. My variegated string of hearts up here is the one that gets most of the sun. And on this side over here, we have a bookshelf that gets a lot of light that is reflected from the pool, but I also have a grow light on top to help on days where it's not as sunny, or I actually turn it off at night. That is the light that gives light to this entire room, and that also helps the plants on that side grow. So let's get a closer look at these plants. So starting back down here, we have my alocasia black velvet. Let me see, get this better look. We have an alocasia black velvet. It's growing in leca and it's doing really well over here. We have a little baby one that's growing, and we have a couple new growth points coming from the alocasia. I had my alocasia, it was a one leaf plant for a while. Once I put it in leca, it started sprouting more leaves, and it's now looking so pretty. And as you can see, it's making sure that it's getting as much sun as it possibly can by moving its leaves towards the sunlight. Then we have my mini monstera here. I am hoping that I can get it to grow along the window and then upwards, but we'll see. It's probably gonna take a little bit, and also I'm not sure how much longer we'll be staying here. So we'll see how this experiment turns out. I did have 2 stems growing and I decided to chop it, and it's all bendy because of the way it's pushing against it, so it's growing all weird, but it does have a new growth point, as you can see. And the cuttings, I'm gonna actually like put it this way, maybe. So that the cuttings already have a little bit of roots, so I went ahead and planted them on here, and they're doing okay. The bottom 2 cuttings are still rooting, but this plant is just it roots so easily. I can see some points. Let me see if I can take it out. Like there's like white bits that start to grow roots. So I'm hoping that these propagations will also be successful, and we can have, or I can have, a really bushy mini monstera, so it's not looking all lonely with one stem. Then coming over here, we have my variegated string of hearts. As you can see, it is not very variegated because it did grow all of these leaves during the winter when it wasn't getting enough sunlight. But if you see back down here, you see that it's starting to get that pink color, and that's from the recent sunlight that it's been getting. And I have a reminder here: close window in evening for full sun for my variegated string of hearts, so it can get more sunlight. This window here is slightly tinted, and I think they both are slightly tinted, so when they're up together like this, it's not getting the full sun that it should. So I leave this window closed when it's getting all that sunshine, so it can hopefully get more variegation, but we'll see how it goes. Next, I have 2 plants in one pot, a Cebu Blue and a type of Monstera. I put them together simply because I didn't want to have 2 pots. I just wanted 1 pot, and they are doing perfectly fine combined in this way. So I'm just gonna leave it like that until it becomes a problem. Next, I have a Hoya. I believe this Hoya is called Hoya Crinkle 8. I got this last year in Flagstaff, and it lived with me at the North Rim for a few weeks, and now it's living here with me in California, and I think she's doing really well right here. Next, we have this plant here. I don't remember the name of it. I just call it beetle-leaved plant. I think it's a type of peperomia. I'll put the name on the screen, obviously. And so it hasn't really grown foliage. It's only grown these blooms, and I don't want to cut them off, but I'm thinking I probably should. Well, actually, I don't even have time for that anymore because I'm leaving tomorrow. So I'm just gonna let it do its thing. I'm hoping that it starts to grow leaves soon. And lastly, on this window, we have my Peperomia Hope. I also got this plant in the winter, and because it wasn't getting enough light, as you can see, it got pretty leggy, but the new growth from the spring and summer sun is getting close, is not as leggy, so I'm hoping that it grows beautifully. I'm gonna see how this grows when I come visit in a month, I'll see the way it is growing. If I absolutely hate it, I might just chop it, like, and make it bushier so the new growth is closer together, because I hate leggy plants. I hate when plants get leggy. Over here we have the Mando bookshelf, because we have obviously a Mandalorian helmet right there. And in this bookshelf I have my string of hearts growing down. It's getting kind of long. I have a green leaf philodendron that's growing over here, and next to it is my satin pothos. I did have this in a little bit of a darker corner, and it started to kind of lose the silvery that it gets, but now that it's out here, it's growing more of that silvery shiny stuff that makes this plant so special. I love this plant. Next to it I have micans, and it's also growing in leca, and once I put it in leca, it started to grow really fast and beautifully. I did have it in soil before, and it just was growing so funky, so I decided to chop it and prop it, and that is why it's so much bushier up here. Those are all the new propagations that I put into this pot. Down here I have my watermelon peperomia. It wasn't doing too great in soil, I think because it wasn't getting enough light, but now that it's in water, it's growing so many roots. And I don't know, I'm thinking about just growing this here in water because it looks so cute that way. And lastly, we have this beautiful pothos that I got for $10. It's doing okay after torturing it for the last few weeks. As you saw my previous pothos, that previous pothos is part of this pot here, and this one is doing a lot better than the other one, so I don't have time to put it in a pole this year because, like I said, I'm leaving tomorrow, but I'm hoping that I can grow this upward in a moss pole so the leaves can get huge and beautiful, but I will deal with that later because I don't have the materials to make a pole right now, but maybe I can have them shipped home, and next time I come home I can actually make that pole and just let it grow while I'm gone. So on this side of the room, right above my desk, I have a few of my plants. I tried to have some plants over here, but the two plants that I had there rotted because it's a very, very dark corner, so I kind of ditched that idea. I might put some fake plants here just because I love the bushy greenery look, as you have seen from the rest of my video. But above here we have my Pothos and Joy on a vase planter that my mom got me from Mexico when she visited recently. Then we have a small cutting of a variegated string of hearts that my friend gave. It's like really loving that spot right there, right next to the south facing window. And then we have a Hoya curtsii at the bottom, and a cutting of I don't remember the name of the plant. I'll put it on the screen, but I just call it the green hearts. This is the plant that I try to hang in that corner, and it rotted, and all that is left is two little cuttings that are rooting right now. Oops. And then I have my Hoya curtsii here. This plant is just so beautiful. It's one of my favorite plants right now, and it's really taking off. I wanted to leave it behind, but I just love this plant so much and I'm scared that it'll die. So I am gonna take it with me, which makes me a little bit sad because it's really enjoying this southern light over here. As you can see, it's growing so much. And I have been spraying it with that orchid spray, and it's doing really well with that orchid spray. And then up here is my pothos and joy that needs some watering. I'm going to water it right now. I'm gonna also take this one with me just because I don't want to overwhelm my plant sitter with 100 plants, although I only have 50. And then my small cuttings that I am going to actually leave behind, I think she'll be fine. On this side, I have all of my light-loving plants. This is a southern-facing window, and I live in Southern California, so I get a lot of light here, and that's why I'm able to grow some succulents and cacti without them being all leggy. Over here, I have my little Hoya dish with my 3 Hoyas, Hoya Matilde, and a Polyneura that hasn't really done anything for a year, but it's still alive, and a variegated. Is this the Carnosa? I think it is. Sometimes it gives white leaves, but they die so quickly, and I think it's because it's in a southern facing window, which is fine. I have this Hoya ovata, which is doing pretty well over here. I did put this like film here to try and block some of the sunlight coming in so it's not too direct, but it has given me a few leaves since putting it over here, so I think it likes it here better than where I had it before. Then I have my air plants growing on bones that I've found random places when I go camping and stuff. This one here just loves being in the southern facing window. It changes color. It's sun stressed once I put it in the southern facing window, and it's growing 2 babies. Apparently you can cut them out, but I kind of want to just keep growing it to see how many little clones it can grow. I have seen a plant that is really thick of just a bunch of these little guys, so that would be cool to have that growing here as well. And then I have my carnivorous plants. Carnivorous plants actually need to have a lot of light, so that's why they are over here. It's kind of dark. That's why I have them in my southern facing window. If you want to have carnivorous plants, they have to be in a southern facing window or else they're not going to grow. There's my aloe vera. And then this thing here. So this is actually a terracotta dish that I painted like a toadstool, and in here I have some Hoya curtsey growing in here in sphagnum with some mica at the bottom. Then we have this succulent pot of cuttings I've just kind of stolen from the backyard. The pink one, okay, so these are supposed to be pink, but I guess they're not getting enough sun stress, and that's why they are reverting back to that greenish tint. But this one is doing fine here, and that's why he is actually retaining the red coloring. Then over here I have this crazy tree that I always forget what it's called. Spiky boy. My donkey tail. This is a pretty good indicator that it's getting a lot of light here because it's not all leggy. The leaves are really bunched together, and I've had this for a really long time. I think like 2 years, and I've chopped it a few times because in the past it was getting leggy. I had it in a western facing window and it was getting really leggy and I just hate that look, so I chopped it and threw a bunch of the babies down there and they're all growing. String of pearls. This is another plant that is so finicky. You would think that it's really hardy because it's a succulent, but it's just a princess plant, and I've also had this for a long time and it's gone through a lot of cuttings and propagations and it's finally doing okay. It's another one of those plants that take forever to acclimate to your home, but once they do, they start actually taking off, so let's hope she stays happy here. Then I have my monkey tail. I've been wanting this plant for so long and I finally found it at a flea market, and it's growing little babies. And this is my sunstress string of hearts. I think string of hearts look best when they're sunstressed because they get this really pretty purple that you don't see in a non-sunstressed string of hearts. And I was actually worried that it was gonna die because it was just so much sun here, but it's just making the hearts really small. That's how it's decided to adapt to all that light, and it's doing really well. It's constantly blooming and dropping all the flowers after they dry. So it could be blooming constantly because it's stressed out in the sun, or because it's really happy, I don't know. And lastly, my monstera, that is just a crazy ass looking plant. If I could just chop it and make it not so leggy, that would be my dream, but it just decided to grow all crazy. But that's a problem for future me. But look how huge the leaves got. Here's my hand for comparison. And I think the only reason why they're growing this big is because it's just at the at a southern facing window, and that's why the plant is actually like twisting itself so that it can get all the southern light. You can see it over here how twisty it is. So those are all my plants, and as you saw, it's a small collection, but I love them very much, and I did bring some with me, as you can see here, and I did start buying a few. I've been going to Flagstaff over the weekend and buying a few, so it's growing. But thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed, and that's all. Have a good day. Bye.